Hello everyone and welcome back to what I can officially now call our garden. Look at all this space, it's amazing, isn't it? If you don't know the story so far, then check out my last video. I'll give you 5 seconds to click on that one first so I don't ruin the surprise. In fact, I've already ruined it anyway. This is our new garden. Yes, our garden is now 200% bigger and I'm 1000% poorer, but still, if you're gonna spend your money, put your money where your mouth is. What a garden. Honestly, it's an absolute privilege. Last video, I talked about the story of getting here, how we got to finally get this garden and call it ours. It still doesn't feel real. Well, in today's video, a little bit more down to earth. As promised, I'm talking about the practicalities of taking on a new space like this. To be honest, it's just to walk around and talk with you, share the full space, walk around the perimeter there, and talk about the practicalities you might be wondering about, how I get into this new garden, what I'll be doing with the boundaries around it, how I'll be joining it into our existing garden, and more importantly still, the 3 S's, which I think you absolutely have to consider when you're moving into a new space. So let's get started. The first question then you'll no doubt want to know more about is access. How do I get into the new piece of garden land? Well, you have to go through the jungle garden, this winding, twisting path for all these beautiful exotics. It's always felt like a journey, and I thought the fire pit was the destination, but now it's got a real destination at the end of the trek. We pass through here, along, past my lovely patio project, greening up nicely. Just ignore all the mess in this area. It's been ignored for quite a while. And then we turn right and go through this gate here. But you might be thinking, George, how stupid of you to actually cut in with these cobbles here and narrow this path. Well, there's a simple reason for that. This was never supposed to be the entrance to this land if we ever got a chance of buying it. This was always supposed to be, well, just basically access to get to that polytunnel there, if ever it happened. I kept it open, but not really wide enough for a barrow. So that's gonna have to be modified. But it's not completely a mistake, because initially, and no hard feelings here, initially Paul was gonna sell us the land up to, I'll just head through here, up to the fence behind those bamboo there. So my plan was actually to take out the golden bamboo, the phyllostaches there behind me, have this path going all the way through here, go through there and join up to that concrete path the other side. So I had a wide entrance to this new part of the land, as big as I could possibly want. The plan was to have a beautiful pond down here, maybe a home for the gunnerer. And in fact, on the subject of gunnerer, so many of the decisions and things you've heard mentioned in my videos over the past few years have all been about this land. The heartache, the trial and error of trying to control these beasts, pondering about moving them. I had at the back of my mind that 1 or 2 of these could have potentially gone right near that pond spot over there. When you heard me debate about this cobble wall, I didn't even know I could put it in until this year when the extra bit of garden land was decided, because I wasn't sure if I could just arrow off this way here and have a beautiful flowing path. It really would have been completely marvelous. But, you know, these things happen, and Paul wanted to keep some of the land to grow some fruit and vegetables, and, you know, can't fault him for that. You know, at the end of the day, we're both gardeners. He's an adult. We make these decisions, and like everything else, you have to adapt and overcome. So that's why, at the minute, you have to pass all the way through this narrow jungle garden. I'm leaving the bamboo exactly as they are. You'll have to pass through here. All this will eventually be hard landscaped. You'll have patios, well, some kind of covering to it. It might be stone, it might be slate, it might be slabs, it might be bound gravel. And then you come through this little gate here. So at the minute, access is a bit of an issue. Those big rocks there, they're definitely fixed. But when I actually move the cobble wall to this side here, there'll be plenty of room to get through, no problem at all. One thing that I will say, or one plant that might have to be moved, and by might I mean definitely will, is my beautiful Euphorbia John Phillips. A gorgeous, classy, reliable evergreen, just beautiful, even sparkling with yesterday's rain on the leaves. it just gets too big, way too big, and it will completely block this path here. I've had to cut it back pretty harshly already, but I won't be taking it out just yet because I'll be using a lot of this growth here to make cuttings next spring. So I've got some new plants made from exactly the same parent that can go into our new land. So the Euphorbia John Phillips will live on, and instead we'll have a slightly pared back border, showing off the beauty of that waggy there. This gorgeous Arbutus andrachnoides hybrid strawberry tree. Just look at that. And as that arches its way up, you'll get to see that beautiful, flaking, cinnamon coloured bark. It really will be a stunning tree. Just winding off over the top of this little area here, the pinus patch with its long needles in the distance, and this border, it'd be slightly more pared back, but plenty of room for unusual succulents, maybe a few aeoniums and things like that in summer. So that's the rough plan with this area. I know what you're thinking, George, you promised us a tour of the new garden. Well, let's get into it. Talking about practicalities, the things I've considered before starting anything here, and the changes I'll be making. So let's close that gate back. So I guess the first question you might have is, you've got a big fence around your garden, George. Bordering this fire pit area here, you can see all my beautiful blue yuccas. Don't look amazing from this view. I think you'll probably see my Instagram and Facebook pages definitely covered in a lot of pictures of the yuccas just lit up by that beautiful sun. Just incredible plants, even in the middle of December, or possibly especially in the middle of December. I'm filming this video the day after my first look at the garden, and today we're going for a deep dive. But you might be thinking, this fence, George, is this staying? Well, long term, I don't think it will. But just for now, and you'll see why shortly, it's going to stay. However, there's big plans. Our new garden land actually goes up to the edge of this concrete pad here. This is all Paul's stuff. His family will be moving, but there's no rush for these things. It'll be going past there and then a fence put up straight across. Paul's sorting that out. So I'll have a nice little hearth standing here to move pots and things to. And then, oh, the polytunnel. Yes, look at this. How lucky am I? To be quite honest with you, this didn't look like this yesterday. But my first job, the first project in this new part of the garden was to clear out the polytunnel. So yesterday afternoon, before I put the main video together, while the rain was hammering it down outside, I had a quick hour in here, just ripping out as much as I possibly could. They're all old vegetables. This polytunnel wasn't used last year. Don't get me wrong, it's a relatively recent polytunnel. It's been put up while we were here, so it's less than 5 years old, and it's been done properly. All treated timber, all very reinforced, and it should last a good few years yet. A beautiful structure, and I'll make a lot of use of it. For me, my primary uses for a polytunnel greenhouse are firstly overwintering, and then getting things started in spring. But having a space this big, it really opens options up. There's so many different plants I could grow in here. I mean, you've got these raised beds here. Harriet can maybe try growing some fruits and vegetables in there, maybe some strawberries. You've got this big long border here. In the short term, I'll be putting some trays and cardboard down and using it to store and look after a lot of the plants I bought to go in the new garden. They'll be coming in a video very soon. But long term, when I've got it de-weeded, when I've got some mulch down, wow. Again, the possibilities are endless. You can see what I've had to dig up. Just a bit of clearance, but it's amazing what you can do in an hour when you've got that energy behind you, and that energy will definitely be relied upon for the projects I've got coming up when life will be especially busy. But really, I mean, just look at this. This is an absolute dream, isn't it? Practicalities, you will notice that the bottom meter-ish of polytunnel is actually a mesh. So this isn't really a hot polytunnel in winter. It's not something you'd heat as such. So if I did ever want to have a heated one for more tender plants, I'd have to put a polytunnel inside a polytunnel, you know, inception polytunnel, so to speak, heat that rather than wasting the heat out the sides. But that airflow is great for overwintering things. When you talk about palms, the hardier succulents, agaves, things like that, a bit of airflow works wonders. And you can see the soil is incredibly dry, which raises practicality number one. How will I water up this end of the garden? Well, it's going to mean some long hoses. I will have multiple hoses in multiple area codes. Yes, the hoses will be stretching right the way up this end of the garden. We're about here getting on for 70 meters away from the house. So it's a bit of a stretch, but like with anything, you make it work. Let's be honest though, when it comes to what I'll be keeping in here, I won't be daft enough to keep anything completely water dependent, because otherwise I would be making an absolute job for myself. But that is the polytunnel. Plenty of work, but right now I've given it a first hour of clearing and it's getting ready to get some plants in, which is the exciting bit, isn't it? So we'll just come out of here, close the door, and I'll show you around some more. Like I said, it's been put down very well. So as we pass around this corner here, eventually this may be some kind of path. I will show you why I can't necessarily open up that fence yet. This section here, you'll notice it's got chicken wire, but most of it further along, you'll see it's just got this kind of grid wire netting, which, whilst it possibly could let rabbits in, my main concern is it'll also let miniature sausage dogs out. Yes, until this whole area, the whole perimeter is dog-proofed, I can't be taking any fences down. At some point, obviously, I will open up some of it to let hedgehogs in and that kind of thing. But right now, my main concern is our two boys, because one of them, Remy, would definitely escape given half a chance. Max, a little bit more cunning, but also a lot smaller. So when you see the size of some of these grids here, maybe not that one, but he definitely give it a chance of getting out of there. So what I actually need to do at some point over, we'll say, well, definitely over the next month or so, is just trim back all of this hedge here, any straggly bits, and then I'll be attaching some stainless steel, because I only want to do this once, chicken wire all the way up there and along that top end there, which we'll get to shortly. That's going to be expensive in itself, but, you know, big garden problems and all that, don't expect any sympathy. So that's a bit of a mission. I obviously want to give it a nice harsh cutback first. I just picked up, using the last of my money, picked up a DeWalt hedge trimmer, because I've got all the batteries for it. It'll do this absolutely fine. Next door actually look after the hedge. They cut it properly, but I'll just tidy up this side so I can get that chicken wire in, and then it'll grow over it. In summer, you'll never see it at all. But what a space. If you haven't seen the last video, then, well, the secret's already out now, isn't it? But check it out if you want to know the story behind getting hold of this piece of beautiful garden land. But why are you watching this video? Well, what will I be doing when it comes to starting this garden here? Well, for me, very simply, there's 3 S's that you look at when you want to take on a garden space: soil, sun, and space. Very simply, what's below you, what's above you, and what's all around you. But just to finish off the boundary issue, you'll see there, fence panels. Over this side is the fire pit. I never intentionally planned to have a path running through here, but I might just have to open it up a little bit to potentially get a little pathway through there and have 2 entrances to this part of the garden, or somewhere at least for Harriet and her future sister to play around with and run around the garden. They'll absolutely love it. But back to the main principles: soil. Obviously, with this land adjoining ours, I know what the soil's like. If we go with this molehill here, you'll see it's nice, rich soil. We really are so lucky here to have a good, rich, fertile soil. You really can grow so much in it. But this garden here, the drainage, I'd say it varies. There are pockets of sand at the end of my garden, but mostly it's a bit damp in winter, and then it's quite dry in summer, quite normal. I have carried out a pH test, which is always something worth doing whenever you move to a new garden. And if you've got a large garden, do several different tests at opposite ends of the garden. And I found out that my soil broadly is just at the acidic side of neutral. It's pretty much in the middle, which means you can grow a wide variety of plants. And to check the drainage, you could obviously dig a hole, pour water in it, and see how long it takes to drain. There's plenty of ways of working it out. But let's be honest with you, as much as you can test the pH and the drainage and everything, most plants do grow in most soil. So on that front, we're quite lucky here to be pretty much down the middle and open to all kinds of sensible plants, and the ones that are a little bit more out there as well. But when it comes to the sun beaming out over there, as we're heading into mid-December, it's only just skimming the horizon now. But you get an idea of where the sun travels from and where it sets. This garden, well, this edge here is undoubtedly full sun. Currently, at least anyway. Over that side there, you'll see, even early afternoon, it's in pretty much full shade. But the sun's travel in winter comes up just behind the houses there, and it just tracks gently around there, and then it comes down over there. But in summer, it's different again, obviously. And in summer, it comes up pretty much over there, and it goes a lot higher all the way around here, straight round, and then it actually drops down behind the woods over there. So it's a different path, and it really opens up more of the garden to that light. So very simply speaking, I've got a full sun side to the garden. Right now, I'm looking due west. So that side sees sun all day. But this side down here, definitely a little bit shaded. It's something to keep in mind, particularly when it comes to temperatures as well. I can actually put a clip over this, filmed last winter before we owned this land, showing how frosty this part was here versus the bit that's in the sun. It makes a huge difference. So any slightly more tender plants, this possibly isn't the side of the garden to have them on. Another factor, which is definitely important, is the sloping of the land. You see, this land here slopes quite broadly from right down to left. The soil at this side, much damper, and over there, it's definitely got better drainage. So that definitely works quite nicely into the sunny side and cooler, shadier, wetter side, because broadly speaking, it's quite easy to find plants which fit both of those categories. And when it comes to space, well, you've got to just walk around a place like this, haven't you? Not just because of the size of it, I'm not just flexing, but to really experience what this place is like. Like I mentioned in my last video, and I won't go all poetic on you, a garden is so much more than literally this. It's everything. You've got big open skies here, even on a day like today when it's so bright, having to stop the camera down. But it's all about, for me, keeping that sense of atmosphere, really just appreciating the open space. And in fact, a little note, those woods over there, I actually used to play in those woods as a young child when my friends lived just over there. So it really is funny how the world works. We hardly ever came to the village that we actually live now, but just remember all those days playing in there amongst the beech trees, just fantastic memories. And it's amazing now that I can actually see that from our own garden here. So as much as I will be planting some taller plants and things down this side, I don't want to block it out completely because it'd be a shame to not be able to see the wood for the trees. There we go, joke of the year, fitted in at the last minute. But you can really appreciate in a place like this, just the openness. I know I keep gushing on, but it really is such a privilege and such a pleasure to have somewhere so wide open. I've always wanted a garden with a hedge, and I know, particularly for those of you that are older than me, that might seem completely daft because hedges take quite a lot of upkeep and maintenance. But as I mentioned in my appearance on the Not Just a Garden podcast, a good old chit chat with George Lowther, I'll put a link to it in the description below. As I mentioned with the two amazing ladies over there, there's so many elements to a garden that excite me, which you can't really plan for. It's those little cool corners that nature creates. It's the planting opportunities. It's natural things like this hedge. I definitely like things on the wilder side. I'm not one for everything being neat and tidy. And what can look messy to someone, to me, it's all about the opportunities. Just the fact that I can trim this hedge and have honeysuckles growing in it, have so many wild things, so many things that the birds and other wildlife will enjoy. And to me, you'll be pleased to hear, a big part of my plans for this garden land, it's all about the wildlife. You can see here another little section of hedge. showing really probably the best example of the size of the wire squares. So essentially, I'm pretty sure Max could get through one of those if he wanted to. And when I say if he wanted to, if he sees a ball the other side, that's it, he's gone, and you will never ever see him again. So we definitely don't want that. So it's important to just tidy things up, get that mesh in. It's going to be hideously expensive, but once it's in, job well done. We'll take you all the way to the end. Lots of fallen apples here. You'll notice this tree, I believe this wrapping was put on to prevent pests, but you can see it's actually damaged the tree. So if any of you, maybe Shane Bilson is just the man here, have got any advice on this, does it need some more tape reapplying? It's a lovely old tree, a bit of maturity. I obviously want to do everything I can to keep it and care for it over the coming decades. Let me know. But there's one thing it definitely needs, which is a good pruning. It's a very heavy cropper. Actually, this summer, Harriet and I came out here, Paul and his family let us in, and we picked a load of apples off this tree. It makes kilos and kilos and kilos of apples. There we go, another callback to that podcast. Yes, if you take the time to listen to my episode on Not Just a Garden, you'll find out so many things which will come to fruition in this garden here. So many of the dream ideas I mentioned there will be coming to life right here in this spot, which is an absolute dream to be able to say. But this tree, going back to the practicalities, just look how congested it is. When it comes to apple trees, you need that clear air between the branches. You've got to open them up a bit more. So what I'll be doing over the next month or so, again, give myself a few tasks, but they're very fun tasks, is just open the whole tree up. Cut out the 3Ds, any dead wood, any damaged wood, any diseased wood, and then really just try to open it up. Cut out some of those crossing branches there, let a bit more airflow get in there, and we'll probably find we get more larger apples off it next year, or if not next year, the year after. You can see it's definitely been looked after, cared for and pruned in the past. But then over the last few years, you've got all these water shoots sending straight upwards there. Those don't really work as productive apple shoots. So really a nice trimming just to reduce the overall size, get a bit more airflow into that centre there. It should work wonders. And at the back, you'll see there's a few more fruit trees. Over this side, we've got another very small, I believe this one's a crab apple. Nice little tree here. Centre, we've got a plum, which is absolutely covered in fruit this summer. So much fruit, in fact, that it snapped off this limb here. With plum trees, you need to cut them when the weather's warmer, when the tree's actively growing, because otherwise you can risk introducing diseases. But you can see with this one here, it needs a fair bit of maintenance pruning just to keep it healthy. You don't want any infections entering the plant, but it is, again, a beautiful tree. I'll be completely honest with you, I'm not the biggest fan of plums, but you know, I might get into them, we'll see. And when it comes to this tree at the end, there's no need for us to enjoy eating these smaller apples. The birds absolutely love them. When it comes to wildlife, well, I know I grow a lot of exotic plants, and I possibly don't stress enough just how much wildlife means to me. But my garden is an absolute haven for birds, bees, butterflies, and every other wild creature, not beginning with a B. There's so many things in there that love just scurrying around in undergrowth, flicking up the leaves. And at this end of the garden, I came out yesterday for the first time, filmed that video, and the amount of life up here, it really made me feel so happy inside. There's birds living in that hedge here. There was blue tits feasting on these apples. I saw a little wren hopping about. There was a few different sparrows. That one just flying off in the distance there. Just what an absolute privilege and treat to see. You can see up here, the hedge on the other side is actually cut a bit shorter. And I believe the garden on the other side finishes around where that telegraph post is. The other side of it, there's a horse popping its head over. So the field that's over there, they've got a little horse, which is cool to see. But in terms of the hedge, you know, I'm in two minds about this. I thought originally, do I trim the top back? But to be quite honest with you, two reasons why possibly not. Firstly, the fence down there is actually on our side, so I don't believe that's actually our hedge to cut. I'm sure I could ask the question though if I needed to. And secondly, I actually quite like the seclusion of it. I will need to, again, trim this hedge back on our side, but potentially I'll leave the top as it is. I know best practice is to make sure your hedge is definitely sloping down, so you've got that light to the bottom. You don't want a hedge that's sort of tall and hanging over, otherwise nothing grows down here. But I've got big plans to introduce some of the exotics you might have seen me mention recently, maybe Rubus lineatus, maybe a couple of those evergreen specials you saw, to have a kind of hedgerow entering in a lot of beautiful exotic woodland style planting. But I'll talk more about that soon when I produce a video talk about my plans to this garden. I really am excited about that one. And at this side here, we've got the compost heap. Now, this is where all the grass clippings have gone. There's a bit of everything in here. I imagine some of it's pretty good to use, and I might be able to work some of it into the borders. But long term, will I actually keep this here? Well, we will see. I've maybe got plans to move the compost heap. The perimeter on this side, we've got fence panels. The ones most of the way down, we'll say about 3/4 of the way, have all got concrete posts at the bottom. However, the last section, they're moving around a bit. So I might have to put in some temporary posts just to prop those ones up, because I don't want to think about how much it's going to cost to get all these fence panels done. In fact, I've got a very good idea of how much it's going to cost. But now with, we'll say approximately going right to the front of a house, probably a sickening 140, 150 metres of fence. No, that is not the kind of money that I ever want to be talking about. So I'm going to put it off as long as I possibly can. Obviously, if this was an ideal world, I'd maybe go feather edge and just get this whole section done here before I get any planting, any messing around. But, you know, you make things work when you can, don't you? That's exactly how things have been, as I mentioned in the last video, and it's how they'll continue to go on. I'll do the very best that I can. And then we walk past it the first time round. In the middle of the garden here, we've got another fruit tree. This one, I'll be completely honest with you, it might have to be moved. I'll obviously do that respectfully and trying to get as much roots as I possibly can to give it the best chance of settling without a blip. And it might eventually live up there with those other fruit trees to provide a real wildlife haven up under the hedge. And actually, on the subject of trees, further up here, you can see we've got a conifer on the right-hand side, a pine there. That's a tree with a bit of a story, and I believe it's come back from Scotland on a family holiday. It's been in there quite a few years and it's not very tall, so I possibly suspect that the main taproot was damaged when it was dug up and brought here. And then to the left of it, we've got another fruit tree there, just next to my cordyline. So this view, opening this up, that's really going to make this space just feel amazing. It'll make the fire pit feel so much better too. All that air, all that light in there, wow. And then having the backdrop, those cordlines, which are now a very decent size, the eucalyptus, the olive tree, with some planting in front here. Whew, what a vista. That's what it's all about. So, there we go. That's the basics of this site here. And for me, it very much comes down to the actual, we'll say the barriers, the boundaries, what we're going to do with those. I've got a plan there, and some of it will be set into motion over the next month. What are we working with? What's already here? Well, it's pretty much a blank canvas, other than a few trees at either end. So again, bit of a plan for those, tidy them up, look after them the best I can, and add to them I certainly will. There'll be more trees going in. I've discussed the 3 S's, the soil here, which I already know is very good, fertile soil, possibly better drained on this side here. This really will be a baking hot border where a lot of plants can grow and hopefully thrive over the years. But then the feeling of space, for me, that's what it's all about. I do want a lot of plants in this garden, but I do also want a lot of space to enjoy. A lot of, dare I say it these days, lawn. Yes, lawn. So it's going to be about balancing the space, balancing all the trees I want to plant in with keeping what's here, providing a bit of crucial sort of, we'll say, blocking and trying to sort of filter out the sound a little bit and the wind, but also retaining that open meadow feel, which is honestly such a privilege, such a pleasure to be in. That just leaves then the final few practicalities, watering. I know with a couple of my extra long hoses end to end, I can reach the fire pit there. We're now just over 70 metres from the house, so to reach much further down, definitely going to need another hose. I think I've got one hanging around, but maybe even another tacked on to the end of it. It's a fair old way. But again, big garden problems. One thing I will need to really keep on top of is whenever I plant any trees, this next year especially, I'm going to have to water. One of the biggest mistakes you see with people planting trees is just leaving them. Watching them in that first year, particularly if it's anywhere near as dry as one we just experienced, it's absolutely critical to helping them not just thrive, but survive even. So watering is definitely going to be something I'll have to be aware of. Broadly speaking, any plants which appreciate the moisture and a bit more shade will have to go on the left-hand side, drier on the right. But I don't really want to be planting any, well, completely water dependent plants up this end of the garden, at least not until I've got some water features in, but more on that in a video very soon. The last two practicalities, well, they can both be summed up in one word: power. If I plan to have any kind of electricity up here, I'm going to need to plan to get it up this end of the garden, but luckily I've already got plans to bring it up to the new patio area just near that sort of big conifer up there. So hopefully it won't be too much of an extra job, sounds easy when you say it, to run some armoured cable up here, maybe at the same time, so I'm completely future-proofed. You've got power, you've then got options, haven't you? And the last practicality, well, it's staring us right in the face there. The power lines. Telegraph poles, power lines, whatever the wire is that's suspended above you, you need to be aware of it. When it comes to planting trees, well, let's just say I wouldn't plant that birch there. You've got to be mindful about lines and wires going overhead. And there's no greater shame than seeing people plant trees in urban areas, doing the right thing, but planting the wrong trees under them. I know every plant keeps growing beyond its ideal size. That happens. But so many people just seem to live to keep arboriculturists in a job, basically. If you plant a tree that's going to grow tall right under a line, it's going to create a problem. A problem for the tree, a problem maybe for the line, and also a problem for you if you ever have to trim it. Definitely not safe. So I need to be mindful of that and not plant anything super tall at this side of the garden. I think that then sums up most of the practicalities of this bit of garden here. One thing I did actually notice in this hedge here, I need to have a word with the neighbour on that side. These posts, they're definitely posts rather than ash trees or something they're grown through. And I suspect when that side got a tractor in to cut the hedge, it just completely attacked them. But they're all completely loose. They're spaced out quite equally. Who knows what they're for? But it really is a beautiful little hedge. Lots of ivy in it. You see that's flowered. We've got holly in there as well. So I definitely want to add to that biodiversity. More natives, more flowers, more berries, and it really will be a beautiful sight indeed. And before you mentioning it, yes, I've already thought of it. If I put any plants in here, I will be leaving a strip all the way down this side here to cut the hedge and definitely collect all the trimmings afterwards. I have thought that through. And also, with the threat of a tractor coming over and cutting it all straight across, there's definitely a good incentive to keep the planting a good distance away. So there we go. Following my last relatively organised and dramatic video, a proper rambling one looking around the new space. It is essentially a big rectangle added on to the end of our current garden with a little dogleg that goes around this side here, featuring a beautiful polytunnel that unfortunately Paul has hardly ever actually used. You can see the timber's a little bit damp, but it was put in properly. So it's got a fair old chance at having a good few years left of life. I'm just going to show you again. What a space. Wow. I'll be completely honest, it doesn't feel real yet. It wasn't a planned job, but ripping up a lot of these vegetables and weeds, some of the vegetables there had bolted and some perennial weeds that took a little bit of getting up. It didn't take that long yesterday, and I felt that energy come back, that same creative buzz and flow that I felt when I first started on the garden here. Yes, it's definitely true. Over the next year, few years, 5 years, 10 years, life is going to be incredibly busy with another little girl on the way. I've never had more possibilities, more plans, more things I can do with my time, but I've never had more demands on that same time as well. So I'll definitely be digging deep and relying so much on that creative energy, that flow, that passion, that drive. Because if I can tap into that, I know I can work wonders. It's going to be a journey. It's going to be a long-term one. I can't do everything, but what I can do, what I enjoy doing, I hope you enjoy sharing it with me. So if you haven't already, press subscribe. Please take the time to do it. I know it's a YouTuber thing to say, but it really helps share my videos, my journey, and my passion for amazing plants and beautiful gardens so much further. Thank you so much for watching, and in my next videos, I will be talking about my plans for this new garden here, and even more excitingly, the plants. It's going to be an exciting one. See you very soon.